I love post-apocalyptic settings for games and for movies as well. And when it's a city builder and it turns into a survival city builder, colour me interested. Oxygen First Breath is the free-to-play 50 days introduction to a game called Oxygen, which is currently in development and due out next year. The game itself sees you in a post-apocalyptic natural disaster where large igneous provinces, which are basically giant cracks in the world, fissures, open up and they spill out gases and lava for like decades at a time. And your community has been devastated by this. And as a result, oxygen, because of all the toxic gases, has become a real commodity. And so you have an oxygen generator that is in the centre of like this wasteland, and you have a collection of about 15 people in your community. So you need to start building out houses and working out how to survive by getting water purified, getting fish to eat, and then also by controlling the natural geological events that are going on around you to try and harness the power of those to create power so that you can then generate your oxygen generator, because you can't really survive out in the wild anymore just on like breath alone. So there's a lot of different mechanics all kind of running around in the background. How does this play out in an actual game though? Well, you'll start off with your central hub, this oxygen generator. And once you've built some houses to make sure that everyone's not homeless, you will then need to deal with that basic food, water, and then basically energy production. So that could start off initially from coal, but the idea is that you then build up a research centre that generates research points. So so far so very city builder. But what that does is that then allows you to start building up other different ways of generating energy. So it could be that you get a water turbine, but that will only work during the summer months, because in the winter when the frost comes there ain't no water to turn. It could be that you want to get some solar panels, but again, come winter you need to have stored up all of that energy somewhere so that you can survive the winter. And surviving periods of not only just the general annual cycle of summer, autumn, winter, spring, you'll also have to survive the weather, because it could be that rain comes along, and that could be quite nice because that helps build up the trees that are around you, which provide more oxygen. And there's kind of an undercurrent here of trying to grow wildlife around you so that you have more oxygen, which means that you become less reliant on the oxygen generator in the centre of your universe, basically. But also, winds are huge in this game, and it's kind of a bit like the winds are coming and you need to prepare for them because the winds are toxic, and if you don't have enough medical facilities sorted out by that time, and you don't get everyone inside basically as well. And this was my comeuppance because I killed off half of my settlement because I was like, nah, you'll be fine, you can still go and salvage some plastic and gears and metal whilst the winds are out there, you'll be fine. I needed it because I was running low on energy, so it was like, you're going to die of oxygen starvation or you're going to get poisoned, one or the other. So I chose poison and that polished off half my community. But yeah, you need to be able to treat the sick and treat the sick quite quickly. All of the different things that you're building require resources, and you'll need to either dig that out from the earth to start off, or you could go scavenging on all of the different ruins that are around you. So I was in overturned cars, there was a disused supermarket I was in, and you can send out your crew actually on expeditions as well so that they can go off and kind of explore further out to find out what's out there. But it's not just winds that are a problem. The actual fissures themselves that cause this natural disaster are ever present. And so at random points in the map, you'll have these cracks in the earth appear. And they're basically like bomb detonators, because at some point they will explode into lava and it will destroy anything that's around it if you don't put on like some kind of gas cap to convert and depressurize all of these things that's bubbling up underneath into energy. So again, I had it in my one of my playthroughs where one of these fissures opened up right next to all my houses, and I was like, and I didn't have my production chain sorted, and so it exploded and it took out half my houses. And then the winds came literally the next day, and then everyone was dead. So clearly don't trust Smithy is basically the moral of this playthrough and story. Alongside all of this, you can also build up a signal tower, and I had a submarine deck that was allowing new people to come in. But the signal tower is allowing me to then communicate with elsewhere to then go out further wider as well. So there was lots of other nuances that were going on. But the pace on the uptake, because you've got so little people to begin with, is quite slow. So I just want to give you a warning of that with Oxygen First Breath. The initial kind of half hour, once you've got your houses, your water, your food, your canteen, and maybe some coal starting to be hoarded, getting from that initial starting point to starting to feel like you're making some progress, there's like a lag that goes on. So you have to kind of survive that first half hour, 40-minute mark. And then afterwards, you're into kind of a pattern of survive the weather, survive the season, while still pushing out and finding new resources through scavenging to then build out your colony as you go. Ticking away research points in the background to unlock one of, it looked like about 100 odd buildings that you could potentially get to. And the buildings in that are sorted into specials, which are things that are normally tied around resources, but then other types of things too, such as a cafe or a playground for social interaction. There was a temple for spirituality. And you need to balance all of these different things out. Like any good city builder, it's not just satisfying you, it's satisfying all of your community, and you get a vote of confidence, a bit like an election, every X amount of days. And it comes right towards the end of this 50 day playthrough, but not like bang on day 50, where if you haven't provided adequate shelter, good food and water, that they aren't stimulated mentally and socially, that actually they could quite happily vote you off the island because they're not very happy with how they're being led. And so there's kind of a little bit of a needle going on behind the scenes that means that you're constantly always looking at how can I improve things, make things better. All of this comes down to how many people you've got, because you're constantly allocating people to different tasks and prioritising them as you go. I ran constantly into, I was a bit over exuberant with using energy at the beginning of each of my playthroughs, and I didn't learn each time. And so what I found was that I was having to turn off all of the oxygen being pumped to all of my ancillary buildings. So people were having to go home, charge their oxygen tank, then go out to work and then come back again, which totally bombed my productivity, which was a really cool thing to sit and see how it all kind of, the knock-on effect of not being able to pre-plan and store and save, knock on all of the different game mechanics as you go round. So I was quite impressed at the way how it all kind of clung together. This won't be for everyone. It is a slow burn, literally, probably. But there's something really quite cool about how all of the different mechanics all line up together. And like you're desperately trying to prioritise having a gardener water and tend to a tree because you know that that could be the difference between the tipping point of just how productive your oxygens and power supply can do to keep up with the burn of winter. So yeah, really, really fascinating, interesting game. The Oxygen First Breath is free to play for everyone. It came out today, and Oxygen itself is available to wishlist on Steam and is currently scheduled for a 2023 release. Any comments or questions, leave them down below, and happy post-apocalypting! Feels like we're in the real world. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/Higher Network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.